So is football's quick version of spring cleaning, what do you think is the most important thing that Alabama could do during this off week?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the AHSA Radio Network. That's me. Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll tell you more about FanDuel in just a bit, I think. I'll tell you about game time. But thank you for making us your first listen every single day. And thank you, everydayers, for joining us every day. Because if you weren't here every day, you wouldn't be everydayers. Ponder it. Jimmy, so we've got this off week.
Mm-hmm.
We don't love them as fans, but we need them as teams. So what do you think's the most important thing for Alabama to tone while they're during this off week?
I think you can accomplish a lot of different things that maybe some people don't think through, but hey, just the number one thing is just rest and recovery. Whether Milroe is banged up or not, that's just one guy. Anyone who's played in 8 college football games by now is banged up to a degree. I just think a week of in the training room and the cold tub and the hot tub and just a few days off of running and lifting, just recovery. That's the most important thing for the second bye week. It's a long year. The season's now like 2/3 over. So that's number one. Number two is they are going to practice a couple of days this week, and it's a great opportunity to work on yourself and not so much focus on LSU. But okay, what do we need? What does Alabama need to improve on and kind of self-scout and work on yourself? You don't have to dive into LSU. I'm not sure there's an advantage to that. I think you just start LSU Sunday, which is kind of the normal, week for those guys. Obviously, the coaches are working on it. The coaches are working on the game plan. You can put some extra time into the game plan, which is just vital. But Luke, what I'm sort of optimistic about is Alabama played really well coming off the bye week back in September. They came out of the chute firing, and Georgia had an off week too. Just like this is a joint off week with Alabama, LSU. We had the same situation with Georgia, and we came out of the gate firing. Hopefully that'll be the situation because this is a good LSU team for sure.
It is, and that's what I was going to say. Hey, whatever you did that first off week, do that again. Kalen DeBoer's record coming out of off weeks is very good. The early spreads are Alabama's favored by just a little bit. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I just don't know yet. I'd like to know more about. By the way, we hadn't even talked about Garrett Nussmeier's health.
Yep.
He was limping at times during that A&M game. Now, I don't think it's anything serious. He's probably fine, probably just normal wear and tear. But he did have some moments in there where I was like, he might be a little hurt.
Yeah.
He was limping more than Milroe.
Yeah. And, he obviously didn't play well and got hit quite a bit in the second half of that A&M game. Great player. Again, I've been saying that since week one. This isn't it's time to play LSU. So let's talk about how good Nuss is. I've been talking about it since the USC game to start the year. I remember saying, I guess on the show, I certainly said on BOL, my takeaway that Labor Day, the day after LSU USC was, I bet this season's going to play out. Garrett Nussmeier and Miller Moss going to be two of the best quarterbacks in college football. And I think it's really played out that way. He's good. They got good wide receivers. Like Colin Lacey is outstanding outside. They got other guys that'll hurt you. Oh man, Aaron Anderson, what a player! What a great example, by the way, of development. Where Aaron didn't get off to a great start. His freshman year at Alabama didn't do much. Even his sophomore year at LSU didn't do much. But now he's a junior. Now it's year 3. Boom. Ends up being, as good as everybody thought he would be. So yeah, he's going to be tough to guard. Hey, this is a heck of a matchup for Alabama's DBs who have been beaten, at times and have been kind of a liability at times. But this is how, you've got to generate a pass rush. But against LSU, that's very difficult because their tackles are their best players on the whole team are the 2 tackles, Will Campbell and Emory Jones, 2 potential top 10 picks, both of them in this upcoming draft. They're the 2 best players on that team. And It's asking a lot of your ends, your bandit and your wolf are going up against those guys. That's going to be tough for them to generate pressure. So it's got to come from somewhere else, probably the interior and blitzes. And we don't blitz a lot. That hasn't been Kane Womack's thing. But hey, if you want to be a great defensive coordinator, Luke, if you want to be good at that job, then you do have to change things up. You can't do the same. You can't look the same every week. You have to give LSU something that they haven't seen on film and do something a little different. Maybe that is going to be more blitzing.
Well, we've also seen that LSU, at least defensively, doesn't necessarily get ready for anything other than what they've seen on film. I mean, they weren't ready for a running quarterback.
Yeah, but boy, and there's no doubt. I mean, if you're LSU, there is no question what the focus is at LSU this week. We couldn't stop Marcel Reed, and now we're playing an even better guy that could. It's going to. So they're working on defending the quarterback run. I think if you're going to play chess and not checkers, and you're Nick Sheridan, you're like, okay, they're going to defend the QB run. That's going to be their focus. How can I take advantage of the fact they're going to overcommit to that?
Yeah, and you say he's better. I think in theory, Jaylen Milroe is better than Marcel Reed when it comes to being a running quarterback. In practice, right this minute,
yeah.
In reality, I'm not sure that he is. I mean,
maybe
right this minute. Overall,
yeah. Overall, yeah. But you're right. The last post Georgia, really, he's not put up big rushing numbers, and I think it really fell off South Carolina, where he hasn't really been the same in terms of. I mean, he did have now he can still make a play on the ground. He can still do that. But I just thought earlier in the year in September, to me, Luke, he had some real burst. I remember hearing analysts say with a straight face, the best running back on the team is at Alabama, Jaylen Milroe, because he's got that burst. And I just haven't seen as much burst the last 3 weeks. He's still can get going. He's just a bit more lumbering to me. And he also looks like, he's a tough kid. I mean, there's no, anybody doesn't think Jaylen Milroe is tough is crazy. He's a tough kid, but I don't know. It seems to me that he sort of shies away from contact the last 2 or 3 weeks too. That's what it kind of looks like to me. We're running him less, but hey, I've been asking for that. I've been asking. Let's let Jam and Justice do it.
We've been running him less. That's key. I'm fine with that. Yeah. It doesn't mean he can't run the same. If the play breaks down, if he gets outside the pocket and sees a lane, take it. We noticed that against Tennessee, against South Carolina a couple of times, I think, where, hey, quit worrying about you have to stay in the pocket. Go be you. And that's another thing that I want to get through to him during this off week. I don't think it's any coincidence that, who's really seemed to have whose plays has really dropped off these last 3 weeks. And dropped off is all relative, but dropped off compared to what they do is Ryan Williams and Jaylen Milroe. And certainly they have a symbiotic relationship. Yeah. If Milroe's not throwing the ball well, then Ryan Williams isn't going to be able to do as much. Now, Ryan Williams had 2 touchdowns against Vanderbilt, and that's great. He had 1 spectacular reception for a touchdown. That's great. But there's more there. And there was a missed touchdown against South Kakalaki. There were some certainly missed open catches against Tennessee. There were really just not a lot, not nearly as many targets against Missouri. So I'm ready to see Milroe go be you. Quit trying to be, and I don't know if this is because you're being told or this is what you're doing. You don't have to be the perfect NFL quarterback right now. Just go be you, man, because you're a good quarterback.
Well, I hope he channels what he did against LSU last year. What you did against LSU last year. Now I realize they're a little bit better on defense than they were a year ago. They're not great. As a matter of fact, for those of you who are like, gosh, Alabama stinks on defense, this is no good. LSU, per pretty much every single metric, ranks below Alabama defensively. I mean, so they have not been. They're below Alabama and haven't played the schedule Alabama has played either. So they're lower, even though they haven't played the opponents that Alabama has. So there are plays to be made, but replicating his performance against LSU last year is just going to be a little difficult because they're clearly better than they were. Last year, they were flat out putrid. I'd heard that per every metric, they were like the worst or second worst defense in the history of LSU football last year. Are you muted or are you muted or?
I'm going to tell you about game time because you know what time it is? Game time. I was muted. It's gotten worse. I mean,
What would
as
you
I'm getting
call a
older.
live read that's muted? A dead read.
Read.
Yeah, dead read. Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Game time. It's game
Yes.
time. You know you love game time. You know I love game time. I've used it for every kind of sport imaginable. If there were a cricket match around here, I would have used game time to go to the cricket match. If there were a lacrosse or a kangaroo boxing, I would have done all that through game time. And because it's so easy and I can see where I'm going to sit, I'll have a great view of the pouches on the kangaroo or whatever you're into. You can do that with game time. Go download the Game Time app, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off that first order, and thank me later because I've used it for the World Series. I've used it for NBA, NFL, college football, baseball, basketball, whatever you want, baby. Concerts. Yep, I've done that. So go check out Game Time. Download that app. What time is it? It's game time.
I'm going to use Game Time. I'm thinking I got my eye on that Justin Timberlake show in New Orleans in November. Giving it some serious consideration. Monitor Game Time, the Game Time app daily. Looking at those prices.
Well, okay.
Just throwing that in there.
That's something for you. 55-year-old male going to Justin Timberlake
Timberlake
by himself in New Orleans. Nothing wrong with that.
No, the wife's gonna go. She likes old JT herself.
Okay. All right, Jimmy. I've got these things sort of backwards here because I think since we're on Milroe, let's talk about him for a second.
Yeah.
About everybody's just assuming he's entering the draft.
Yep.
I'm assuming it. I'm sure you assume it. And
four
weeks ago, I think it was a foregone conclusion. It's not even crossed anybody's mind. I mean, I haven't really heard anything to make me change my mind. But the play on the field has made me change my mind a little bit.
Well, here's my thinking. First of all, hopefully Jalen listens to the show. Because, in the last show, we talked about how no doubt James Franklin from Penn State listens to the show. Hopefully Jalen's listening to this one. Whether it's Alabama or not, I think that's another subject altogether. But I just personally feel this way, and I know a lot of y'all won't agree. That's fine. I just feel strongly about this. I think Jaylen Milroe would be well served by playing another year of college football. I think that's what's in his best interest. So when he does move on to the NFL, he's as ready as he can be. I still see a game that the college game can help him improve. All those little things that an NFL quarterback has to do, I think he'd be well served by playing another year of college football. That's what I think. But in terms of a guess of what's going to happen, I think he's going to go to the NFL. And I think I'm going to say right now, at the risk of being really, really wrong, I'm going to stick with my guns and stick to my Jalen Hurts comp like I've used all along for him, and say that he's going to go in the second round, which, by the way, if he left school and was taken in the second round, I wouldn't criticize it as a bad decision. I think being taken in the second round justifies the decision to leave. I just think he's in his best interest returning to college football to improve on deficiencies and improve on doing things NFL quarterbacks do.
Yeah, I get that. And and it does make it where with NIL, obviously this decision could work out for him to come back and, financially for multiple reasons. My question is, would it be at Alabama or would it be somewhere else? I personally think it'd be at Alabama. And if he comes back, I hope it's at Alabama.
Yeah,
I really do.
I would think if he comes back, it'll be Alabama. But, I've always said this Jalen Hurts comp. I know people are going to this is an Alabama show. You're supposed to be an Alabama fan. Yeah, I would just want what's best for Jalen. I'm not so sure transferring to USC and playing for Lincoln Riley isn't a bad idea. It worked for Hurts. I mean, it worked for him. He improved. No doubt he improved. Now, he improved that last year at Alabama. He wasn't playing, but when he did play, we were seeing a better Jalen Hurts. He did improve in his year 3 at Alabama on the practice field and throughout the summer.
Hey, his SEC championship performance where he came in for Tua.
Oh, fantastic.
That's the best he's ever quarterbacked at Alabama.
That's true. And I think had he been the quarterback all year, that's what we would have seen. But it doesn't matter because Tua was so outstanding all year long. We didn't need Jalen Hurts playing at that level because Tua, I think, was a better player quickly in college than Hurts. So I'm just saying, even though USC's a mess, even though I don't think Lincoln Riley is a long-term answer as the head coach at USC, he's outstanding with quarterbacks. I mean, outstanding. And I think Milroe could be well served with that. And I'm sure USC would love to have him. But that said, my guess is if Milroe returns, it's going to be at Alabama. And I think he'll improve. To me, I know some people look at the numbers and say he's not improved. I see an improved quarterback. I see an I think the decision making's better. The passing is better. The short to intermediate, it's all better. It can get even better by coming back. But my guess is an educated guess. And by that, I mean, yeah, it's Jimmy's guess. But, I talk to people around. I think he's going to go to the NFL. And I think he would be drafted. Like I said, my guess is round 2. He might be drafted in round 1.
I'm with you. I think there's just too much clay there. And it's not like it's just like this big glob of clay. That clay's formed up pretty doggone good.
NFL loves them some clay. Everybody brings up, Anthony Richardson. I don't love that comp myself. Again, my comp for Milroe has always been Hurts and still is to this day. I think he's just real similar. But, Tim Tebow was a first-round pick. Johnny Manziel was a first-round pick. I mean, I think that there have been varied skill sets that some NFL front offices fall in love with, even if it doesn't work out. But
and if you're going to catch lightning in a bottle, I would like for that bottle to be about 6'3", 240, and look like some sort of Greek myth.
Yeah, he'll be a big story. I mean, if he enters the draft and goes through the combine, which I would recommend that he does, he'd be a big story in Indianapolis. I mean, we've sent some dudes up there to Indianapolis that I remember when Ruggs ran that 40 time and Will Anderson and we've had some guys that just sort of lit up the combine. I think Milroe would do that, and I do think some NFL team out there is going to be like, we can work with this kid. Plus, they're going to like him. I mean, he's so likable, and there's some real leadership there with him too. And so I think he's going to the NFL. I think he could be drafted in round 1 or 2. I'll be pulling for him as hard as anybody. I just think, my football opinion is, like the vast majority of players out there, he would be well served playing another year of college football and earning 7 figures while doing it. Because that's what big time starting quarterbacks make at this level.
I just can't see him like post game TV meeting with a reporter after a big win, a signature sign off. I can't see him going, fight on, like he does Roll Tide. He does it sort of. I can't see him doing that.
I was just suggesting the Lincoln Riley thing because I've been blown away by that stat. One the other day, I think 5 starting quarterbacks on a Sunday were all coached by Lincoln Riley. That's impressive stuff. I mean, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts.
When he gets fired, I want him as our OC.
Yeah. I mean, I think as a quarterback coach and as an OC, he's good. But, man, he hasn't figured out that head coach stuff yet. And even though USC recruits at the level they do, and they've got dudes, and they're great at quarterback every year, they're great at quarterback again. Miller Moss is so good. But, gosh, what are they, 4-4 and play Washington this week? They could lose to Washington.
I'm supposed to do 2 of them.
Okay.
I hope I did that right. I forgot what I'm supposed to do with that. But anyway, doesn't matter.
I like it.
Speaking of 7-figure salaries, essentially, Ryan Williams just scored a huge monster deal with Uber Eats, and his NIL value is like $1.4 million now.
Really?
He's 17. He's got more money than I've ever had. It's pretty ridiculous.
He's like the Justin Bieber of college football players.
It is.
Of course, Bieber's in his 40s now. I always think of Bieber as 17, but I guess he's like 40 or something.
Yeah, he's got to be. He'll always be 17 to you. But anyway,
I'm going to see Justin Timberlake, not Justin Bieber, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I just thought that was interesting. He scored a deal with Uber Eats.
Uber Eats, huh?
Nice.
You know, did Bryce Young work for Uber Eats his freshman year before NIL? He worked for either DoorDash or Uber Eats.
Or Uber Eats, yeah.
That's just kind of hilarious to me. And now look at all the money Ron Williams is making, because I don't think Bryce made $1 million delivering food in Tuscaloosa when he was the backup quarterback to Mac Jones. But that was the final year before NIL, and Bryce got a little part-time extra money thing. Can you imagine how Bryce first pick in the draft, that one day, there's a knock on the door, food delivery, it's Bryce Young delivering your Subway sandwich?
That would make a good show if, like, NFL players who had jobs like that, they went back and did those jobs, just like no fanfare, nobody knows it's coming. It's just like there's Ashawn Robinson working in Subway, or whatever. I don't know if he worked in Subway. I'm just saying that'd be kind of cool.
Wow.
It'd freak people out.
Not going to get on to Ashawn Robinson for putting too much mayonnaise on the sandwich.
No, I'll just eat whatever you put on there. That's fine. Yes, go ahead and lick your fingers. I don't care. All right. So, boy, there was something else I was about to ask you about, and then I slipped my mind. So what I'll ask you about is 1 week till the college football rankings come out.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's going to hurt our feelings when the first one comes out, and we're not really a part of it. That's going to hurt our feelings a bit.
See, this is what I'm here to say. I don't have a guess yet where I think Alabama's going to be, but Alabama will be higher in the college football playoff rankings than they are in the AP poll. And I won't be shocked if Alabama is surprisingly high.
Have we ever not been in the top 12? I mean, okay, now I know
first rankings. Probably not. Probably.
I doubt it. My prediction is we'll be the lowest we've ever been since they started doing these rankings.
That's probably true in terms of the first poll. I think that's probably true. But I'm going to just say right now, and this might shock you, but again, not an official guess yet, although I'll have an official guess before next Tuesday. But I think Alabama might be something like 9. And I know that that's going to shock people. But look, if you look at the strength of schedule ratings for every team that's going to be in the top 15, there are 2 teams that totally stand out: Georgia and Alabama. Georgia's strength of schedule is number 1. Georgia's played the toughest schedule in the whole country. Alabama's played the 5th toughest schedule. Some of these undefeated teams, Luke, their strength of schedule rating is in the hundreds.
Yeah.
And I know Alabama's got 2 losses, and maybe an Indiana or Pitt's undefeated. Would Indiana or Pitt be undefeated had they played at Tennessee or played Georgia at home? And would Alabama be undefeated playing? Would Alabama? Yeah. Would Alabama be undefeated playing Indiana's schedule? I think so. Now, obviously, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, but heck, Vanderbilt's more highly rated than most of those teams Indiana and Pitt have played. So I just use them as an example. I'm just telling people to prepare yourself for. Again, what I'm adamant about is Alabama will be higher in this college football playoff ranking than they are in the AP and Coaches Poll. They will be higher than that. How much higher? I hesitate to say. I'm going to say 9-ish. If I'm wrong, 10 or 11. I don't think they'll be lower than like 11. I don't think so.
I'm going to say they'll be 13.
Wow. Okay. Could be.
Now,
could be. The 2 losses and the loss of Vandy, they speak. But maybe I'm wish casting. I'm just hoping this committee makes a statement about schedules. And
I'm with you.
You can't make a statement about the schedules unless you have a 2-loss team ahead of some 1-loss teams, or a 1-loss team ahead of some undefeateds. That's the statement you're making, that you're taking the strength of schedule into account. If you're just lining up all the 0s and then all the 1s and then all the 2s, why do we have a committee for that? We can put a bunch of 3rd graders can line up 0s, 1s, and 2s.
Trivia question for those out there who are so inclined. I remember this vividly. I'll never forget it. Do you remember who the first playoff ranking, who the 4 teams were in the playoff ranking?
The 4 teams in the first playoff ranking, I don't remember. I know who number 1 was.
Who?
Mississippi State.
Yeah. Now, you don't remember the others? It's the most
No,
hodgepodge group you've ever seen in your life.
but Alabama, I think, is who knocked Mississippi State out of that number 1 spot.
They did.
But by beating Mississippi State. And I think
Much later on.
it was a relatively close game too. I think 25-18, maybe. I mean, Alabama didn't blow them out. 27-18.
We beat them pretty good. They scored very late. I'll find it. It was something. Yeah. We were up like 5-0 for a while.
Boy, now I was talking about Milroe.
We got a safety. I remember. It was 25-20. You're right.
25-20. I think you could be right that they scored late to make it look like a 5-point game, and I think Alabama was ahead by 2 scores or more a lot of the game. Yeah. Hey, let's give this guy credit. We used to have him on the show some back before Locked On, but when Kyle Odell, former Alabama football guy and working in NFL, I'll never forget this about Kyle, about how smart he was. We're having lunch in Mobile, I think during Senior Bowl week, and he's like, you know what quarterback I'm really high on that no one's talking about in the first round, but I'm like sky high on him as an NFL quarterback? I'm like, who's? He said, Dak Prescott. I'm like, really? Because I don't. And he's like, he's going to go in like the 3rd round. He's a first-round pick. And I'm like, really? And boy, did he nail that. I mean, no question if you did that whole draft over, Dak's probably going number 1, you know?
Yeah, there's no question about it.
Yeah, he was right. He was right about that. I guess that's why he was a literal NFL scout. The other 3, I'm assuming Alabama was one of them.
Nope. We had lost already.
Was Ole Miss one of them?
Yes.
Wow, because Alabama had lost to Ole Miss.
Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Florida State.
Those were the top 4. 3 SEC teams.
3 SEC teams and another Southern team. And I remember being pretty upset about it because, yes, Alabama had lost to Ole Miss, but Auburn had just gotten drummed by Mississippi State.
You know what just occurred to me, and I know you're going to get a chuckle out of this, when you said Auburn was in the top 4 in 2014. You know, in 2013, they beat Alabama and played for the national championship. And then fast forward to year 2014, here they are in the top 4. Why did they fire Gus again?
Well, because they got tired of.
You know what I mean?
Malaise forever. I mean,
but look at that. Look at what look at what they've done. I'm gonna say, how'd that work out for you? We can't put up with this anymore. Yeah, I know all that. Funny because top 5 rankings got very monotonous.
Even Harsin got a bit of a reset. Give me or two. Now, his reset was much shorter because he, culture-wise, it was such a bad fit. And also, Harsin was definitely out for just a big payday is what it seems like. I mean, that's what it seems like. I mean, Harsin, he's still petty, and I love it. He's tweeting at Auburn every time they lose, like, congratulations to all the winners. That's hilarious. But if I were an Auburn fan, I would hate that man with the power of 1,000 suns.
Well, I'm just saying, hey, I don't know Auburn's situation, but Gus Malzahn's a better football coach than Brian Harsin by a long shot, and he's a better football coach than Hugh Freeze, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think the one difference is Hugh is clearly a better recruiter. But what we're finding out is no matter how great a recruiter are, if you can't coach, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I just think, I'm not saying Gus is a top 10 coach or anything like that. I'm just saying is if you fire a coach like Florida, they're going to fire Napier, obviously. You better hire someone better than Billy Napier.
I don't know that they are going to fire him, Jimmy. I don't know that they are.
Wouldn't it be something if he just turned it all around?
What if he beats Texas this weekend? That's not crazy. That's not crazy.
He's all Lagway. First of all, Mertz should have been playing the whole time and not Lagway. That's some revisionist stuff there about, obviously Lagway's got to play now because Mertz was hurt.
Yeah.
Mertz was a more effective quarterback than Lagway. But Lagway's going to be really good. And I think this baptism by fire, what it's really doing is serving him well for 2025. So he'll have a quarterback ready to win next year.
And you know who it sucks for? It sucks for us because I'll tell you why. Because guess who by 2026, Lagway's going to be really good. And assuming if he's still at Florida, guess who's probably going to play Florida in 2026 because we haven't played him in a while? Alabama.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Lagway, by the time he's in year 3 or year 4, he'll be a total dude, no doubt. Like I said, this baptism by fire is really shaping him for next year. But this year it's just the weeds are just a bit too tall.
God, I can't wait. I'm so excited. Even though we still got some games left in it, I'm so excited for the SEC schedule reveal for 2026.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, well, it'll be super interesting. We can see now when you have a 16-team league and there's no divisions, we are seeing right now, Luke, how important the schedule is because Texas, as good as they are to some extent, are a product of this schedule that they're benefiting from. Meanwhile, Florida gets and Arkansas and several teams just have what amounts to a near impossible
Oklahoma.
slate. Yeah, Oklahoma's got a really tough schedule.
And let me tell you what, if Texas had Georgia's schedule, Texas is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, they could lose 3 at Alabama, at Georgia, at Ole Miss,
at Tennessee, or not, Tennessee at home.
Tennessee at home. That could easily
just
be 2 or 3 losses.
Clemson. How about playing Clemson instead of Michigan this year? Clemson's clearly better.
The schedule is everything. I mean, Bino Cook used to say that years ago. Everybody listening to the show, like hardly anybody remembers Bino Cook, but he was so big on schedule and home and away, and so I followed that lead a lot.
He also
myself.
said Rick Meyer was going to win 2 Heisman, so
3 Heismans, and I think it was Ron Paulus. But yeah,
was it Ron?
I think it was Ron Paulus, and I think he said 3 Heisman. So he was a little off there by 3. He was off by 3.
Right, hang on.
He just missed by 3.
Bino Cook, Notre Dame Heisman. I'm looking that up right now because there are people. I remember it, and he did, and you and I are both right. Bino Cook predicts Ron Paulus will win 2 Heismans, not
2 Heismans. Okay, so it was 2.
I got it half right. You got
it half right. that tracks, as they say, that we both got it half right. The kids would say that tracks.
It's like in Jerry Seinfeld where he and George were dating I think it was Amanda Pete or whatever. And they were like, if we both put our efforts together, we could probably do the work of one regular person. Yeah. So, all right. That's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.